Welcome to another episode of Beyond Belief Faith After Religious Deconstruction. This is your host, Pooja Chilukuri, and my guest today is someone that I love to think of as a dear friend, and her name is Rebecca Kastl. Rebecca is a pediatric speech language pathologist. She's a healer, a speaker, and a teacher. And she is here today to share her journey with her faith and her religion and some spiritually transformative experiences that she has had. Welcome to the show, Rebecca.
Hi, Pooja. I'm so excited to be here. I love what you're doing.
I love what you're doing. Could you take us back a little bit to your childhood and what was the faith and the religion in your household that you grew up in?
Yes, I was raised Reform Jewish, and I was raised completely Jewish. I had a bat mitzvah when I was 13. I went to synagogue and I read Hebrew, and I was very thankful for this upbringing. It was Reform, so it was pretty progressive. I was able to ask questions. I felt like I would go to Sunday school and it would be who can ask the best question. And I've spoken with people and raised in other religions where they would get in trouble if they asked questions, but I felt like I was raised in a very curious way. There are mystical traditions in Judaism, but I wasn't raised in a mystical tradition. My dad was like a very rational person who had a very strong Jewish identity, but there wasn't a mysticism side to it. So I was still raised very rationally. But I loved going to synagogue and temple. I did find out in the end, towards the end of high school, that my mom had converted to Judaism. I don't even know if you know all this part of my story, but
No, please
this
share.
this
Yeah.
is so she had converted coming from 200 years of Methodist ministers, and the first time I ever went to church, it was a church in Mexico that my great grandparents built. So I had had a totally Jewish identity, and they were like, "Oh, by the way, also here's the church your great grandparents built in Guadalajara." And I really loved it. It was very beautiful. I did find out my great somebody grandfather was a minister who was in a book, who was killed for preaching during the Civil War. And the family stories that he was killed for preaching against slavery. So I was raised completely Jewish, and then I was found out that I came from a very deep Christian tradition on my mom's side. It made my childhood make a lot more sense. I didn't understand why we were the weird cousins who would go see my mom's family. And I just felt like we were weird. We were living in the city, we were Jewish, but her side of the family was deeply faithful Christian. So it's a mix.
That's amazing. A lot of families I know with blended religion. Sometimes I think that's actually healthy. It gives you more perspectives. So I appreciate your story. And I know that somewhere in your early 20s or you
Mhm,
had
mhm.
a spiritual experience. And can you share that with us?
Yes. And the thing about the mixed religious background is it's totally cool. That's interesting. And then I had a spiritual experience and I was like, I need to make sense of all of this because I've just seen the light. I've experienced God. Where do I fit?
Yeah.
When I was 23, actually, Pooja, sometimes I think of my story as a religious construction because I don't share about this part a lot, but when I was 23, I really decided I wanted to heal. And I had been traumatized at age 13 and I wanted to feel my heart. I wanted to feel what was under there. And that really led to my spiritual experience. So I started studying healing and different things at 23. I also started going to a very sweet and small Methodist church. I don't ever talk about that because I like to leave my story open to anybody, but I'd never read the New Testament and I read the Beatitudes and it was so beautiful. It was actually run by a former Baptist minister who'd left and come back to run a very small, very personal Methodist church. So it was like super accepting and beautiful. That's where I got baptized when I was 25. And also during that time, I had been writing my journal, Dear God. So I'd been writing my journal, Dear God, for several years. And this led up to my spiritual experience that started when I was 26. I was writing Dear God in my journal, and then I felt really taken over by this feeling. And I started crying, and I wrote that I wanted to devote my life to God. And in the religious background of my family, Jewish and Christian, I'd already done that. I'd been bat mitzvahed, I'd had a bat mitzvah, and I'd also been baptized. I'd
Mhm.
had the whole gamut, but this was a different level. This was me opening my heart in a way that was really serious because I wrote that I wanted, Dear God, I have decided to give my life to you and whatever that entails. I want to be guided by you, by the light, This is my pledge. I will work hard to follow this path and bring it to fruition. Please help me do this. Please help me bring light to other people. Thank you. Amen. And I just wrote that. Didn't think anything in my life would change, but that night's when my whole spiritual experience started that lasted for the next 2 years, where I saw a light come over my bed that told me not to be afraid. I started seeing light coming out of everyone. I started feeling angels around me. I started having psychic dreams, and all of these things. I was really freaking out because it's one thing to read about spiritual experience. It's one thing to, or read about the Bible or read about Moses or, have a sense of peace and prayer. But when this stuff was really happening, I really just thought I was losing my mind. And it took me years to decide that it was real. But it was a very in depth, intense spiritual experience. But all it really showed me was that God hears our prayers. We're completely loved. Angels are real. There's just so much more going on. Then that's what my spiritual experience really showed me.
And
Yeah.
it's not every day, right? I love your experience because it's not every day that we get such a tangible sign of connection to the, oh, I call it the other side, but I know it's all here, right?
Yeah, it is all here. And then it stopped. And I was like, I guess I made all that up. And then I was like, no, I don't think it took me a long time to decide I didn't make it up because I really did feel all of that. It was
Mhm.
so out of the realm of reality. Anyway, what
Yeah.
were you going to say? I didn't mean to
Because
interrupt.
I was going to ask you if you believed, because sometimes I'll have little glimpses like that, and then
Hmm.
I'll wonder if my mind went there and made up something. So thank you for sharing that you did have to struggle through accepting your own experience. And what about the acceptance from family and other people? Did you start telling people about it or not?
I didn't. So, and to add to my very, very, very varied background, I did have a stepdad who came into my life in my early 20s as well, who came from an indigenous culture and a medicine tradition. So he had really made all this seem normal. He talked about feeling spirits next to him. He had psychic dreams. And so when my spiritual experience started, as much as I wasn't sure if it was real, he started having dreams about me during my experience. He told me different things. He taught me different things about how to be a balanced spiritual person in the world. I wish I would have appreciated it. I didn't really understand it at the time, but he did tell me some stuff about that. So that was the one person who knew a lot about my experience. He was really the only one in my family that knew anything. I didn't realize. I think I had a child's mind where you think whatever you're going through, people know. I was like, oh, of course they know that this is happening to me. But no one really knew except my stepdad. I finally told my mom a couple years ago. She watched one of my interviews and she's very supportive. She's now deeply Catholic. And I think it makes sense to her and her worldview. And she's very supportive and proud. My dad and I don't really talk about it. I'm more just because I'm embarrassed. He's really nice. I like to say, I always talk about how my dad's skeptical, but he's a really nice person. It's not like he's mean and skeptical. He's just scientifically minded. So
Oh,
I haven't really, I think I need to sit down and be like, Dad, I had this experience. I talk about it. I think he probably knows because I'm all over Google at this
mhm.
point and
Oh,
YouTube. So
yeah,
I just need to have a chat with him. He'll be, even if he doesn't believe in it, I'm sure he'll be accepting. But
yeah.
that's about it. I did tell a couple friends a few pieces, but then I kept it to myself because it was so hard for me to accept all the stuff that I experienced, which is sad that I couldn't even accept my own experience like you said. That's
Yeah.
that's kind of a bummer. I wish I would have been more easily accepting, but I really had to sit with it and deconstruct it for myself. My own skepticism. That was the biggest deconstruction I did.
Well, and you know what, Rebecca, I think it's fair to say that we grow into our experience. We may have the experience first, but it takes time to process it. It
That's a
really
good point.
does. To
Yeah, for
accept it, to
sure.
believe it. And I think it's partly also because it's not happening to everybody in our world. It happens
Hmm.
to people across the globe, but it's not necessarily in your world, right?
Right.
And so that's what makes
Exactly.
it difficult. And that's why I just love that we connected at the conference where
Mhm.
all of our stories were welcomed, right? And so it
Yeah.
just gives you that place where you find other people with similar experiences.
Yeah.
I love that you said yours was more of a faith construction story. And the thing I love about that is you leave room for growing and evolving and shifting and changing. Because many times I found that with religion, things are very structured and they're very this or that, black or white, right? In
Yeah.
or out. But that's what I love about faith because that's unique to each one of us.
That's so true. That's so true.
And
I
it
love
can
that.
change. And I know, and if you're comfortable sharing this, because one of the things I've loved about your story is this very beautiful dream you had about Jesus. And the reason I wanted you to share that is because some of the people that are watching and listening have had maybe very difficult experiences with their Christian religion.
Hmm.
And some of us have been traumatized with
Yeah.
the very, very difficult dogmas and doctrines and distorted views of God, and also very narrow-minded views of Jesus. But your
Mhm.
dream to me speaks of a Jesus that's universal. And I would love for you to share with the hope that it heals somebody's heart.
Oh, that's such an honor. I would love to share it. Now, I guess, yeah, one of the things that happened after my spiritual experience was that during my spiritual experience, I started having psychic dreams, and I would also start having dreams to give me guidance. I learned how to pray for guidance in my dreams. So, some of the guidance dreams I've prayed for were different things about relationships, whatever. This dream I did not pray for. So I had it a few years ago. My spiritual experience ended in 2008, and I had this dream around 2019, I think, or 2020, and I'd always been Jewish and Christian ever since I found out about my whole family's background. I'll go to church, I'll go to synagogue. I love it all. I really do. I know that's so strange, but I never had a traumatic experience in a church. And I also I didn't know about church dogma. I just knew I'd read the Beatitudes. It was beautiful. I got baptized. That was so nice. I felt angels next to me. That's awesome. I had this dream about Jesus. And here's the dream. Sorry, that was my huge intro to the dream. Sorry, everyone, for making you wait. But I was walking up to Jesus in a throne, and I wasn't raised to think about Jesus in a throne. So just bear in mind, as much as I'd been to some church, some of these images were not things that I was raised around or been exposed to. And he's in the throne. I'm walking up to him. He was huge, ginormous, as big as a building. And as I walked up to him, I thought, oh my gosh, this is Jesus. I want to kiss his feet. And I was getting ready to go down and like get down at his feet and kiss them, which is also another thing that my soul wanted to do in the dream, but also not something I'd been consciously aware of in my psyche. Um, and I was like, wow, oh my gosh, this is so exciting. I'm gonna go kiss his feet. And then he pulled me up in the dream and took my hand and sat me in a throne next to him. And he became my same size. And his hands were going out from his throne to people on either side. I was on one side and I was holding hands with someone else, and all these people were holding hands together with Jesus in the center, his love going from his heart to each person and everyone in their own thrones. And I just felt all the love going through all of us. I felt connected to everyone in these thrones, connected to Jesus. And it was so beautiful. And it just felt like he was my brother. That's what it felt like. He was here with me. He was walking with me. He didn't want me to be, he wanted to be walking with me on my journey. I don't know. I don't know why I had that dream, but when I told it to a minister friend, he said it was from Revelation 3:20 something.
Wow.
To those who overcome, they can sit with me on their throne. I guess I didn't know that. So anyway, it was beautiful, and it made me feel really connected to everyone too. And it was like millions of people. It looked like, I don't know. It looked like it went out forever. So that was the dream.
That is beautiful. And I don't think I've ever shared this with you, but when he shared this dream with me the first time, I think it was over 2 years ago, and that was on my other show, the Afterlife podcast.
Yeah.
So Rebecca is a returning guest because I can't get enough of your story.
Oh.
That was very healing for me. The way you talked about Jesus, because it just validated some of my experiences. And I'm
Oh.
someone that has had religious trauma from a fundamentalist type Christian church. So
I'm
that was
sorry.
very, very important for me. And that's why I wanted this to come out in today in this
Oh,
show.
I'm so honored. And that's what the minister friend told me. He said a lot of Christians haven't had they aren't told these things, and it's really important for me to share because I don't realize, and I'm so thankful that it was healing, and it was a very powerful dream. It was very bright. It was definitely one of the ones that came from source and from Jesus. And I'm so glad I could heal you because and I'm glad that it verified your own experiences because
Mhm.
it really is so pure and so loving, and that's really all it is. It's all the love, that's all it feels like.
And
So
something else you just said that resonates with my heart so much. You said he felt like a brother.
Mm.
I don't know if you know this, but there is and I used to be able to quote chapter and verse back in the day, but I can't do that anymore. The book of Hebrews in the Bible
Mm.
and written to a Jewish audience, right?
Mm.
And there's actually a verse in there that says that he is not ashamed to call us his brothers and sisters, so
Oh,
brothers, because
that's
he
so
took
sweet.
upon the incarnation just like us, right? So
It's
I
so
just think that's so
beautiful.
lovely that you had that feeling.
Oh, thanks,
Yeah,
Pooja. Thanks.
yeah. And switching gears just a little bit, although
Yeah.
it's still in the same realm, angels.
Mm.
I know you have experienced connection to angels. What was it like for you when you first started sharing that? Because I know not everybody may be very positive in believing that, hey, Rebecca, you can tune into angels or get messages. So how did you deal with
Yeah,
that when you first
that's
started sharing?
true. I barely believe it myself, so I totally understand. But it really does go back to my spiritual experience when I felt angels around me. And when you think about, God, I made this promise to God, and God's so big. It was just suddenly like, oh, I felt these angels by me. It was an answer to my promise. So I've just reconnected with them once over time. And that's how I know what they feel like was because of my experience. So I've
Mm.
done it was, I don't know. When I decided to start sharing this story, it ended in 2008. I did not start talking about it till 2023. I was partially very afraid to share about it. I also wasn't sure if it was real, but I'm at this point now that I'm sharing, I'm like, my ego is gone as much as it can be. I'm going to do this. I know I'm supposed to do it. And if people don't believe, then that's okay. I guess I wish I would love everyone to feel that much connection because it does make life way easier and you feel like there's a purpose and you feel like your prayers are heard. But they've been very real to me. They were very real to me.
And
I
that's
don't know. I
and
don't know what
that's
else to say.
beautiful. I
I
know.
felt them hold my hand.
It is very beautiful, Rebecca. I was more trying to figure out when you started talking about it, did you feel that most people were very
Mhm.
well in receiving it really well, or did you feel that there was
Well,
skepticism?
there's some skepticism. Honestly, I'm not worried about skeptics. Speaking of your background more, I've had people comment, how do you know they're not demons versus
Yes.
angels? And that's been the real area of growth for me because I wasn't raised with that. I actually experienced what I would have considered demonic nightmares and my trauma
Mm.
was really evil. So this whole question of what's an angel, what's a demon, that's a totally mind-blowing thing. So the skepticism I'm fine with. I don't really mind if my friends mostly I'm kind of if people think I'm nuts, but I don't like it if people think I'm talking to something that I'm not talking to. That's more of the bummer area for me because I think I don't know. That wasn't part of my background. My
Yeah.
spiritual experience healed me completely, so I don't really know what
Yes.
to say to people like that.
I am so glad that you did not have that limiting belief. Because I think that because of certain limited beliefs, we're not able to experience the fullness of God and angels, and because our
Mhm.
limited beliefs get in the way, right? The fear will get in
Yeah.
the way. So I'm actually thankful you were not raised with that, Rebecca.
I am too, but I do wonder. I think people do block it because if they're thinking every spiritual experience they have is the devil, then how are they ever going to have a beautiful, loving, heart-opening, mystical spiritual experience with
Yeah.
God? But I had fear, but it was more around my skepticism and my human mind, and I was able to move past it. But I think you're right. I think it's easy to block if
Mhm.
you're too.
I actually did another video on this because that question comes up a lot. Because I
Mm.
have guests that have, spiritual experiences, and somebody will comment and say, "Well, how do you know?" And one of the things I always say, even Jesus said it, you shall know them by their fruit. So if the
Oh.
fruit of the experience is producing a transformation, more
Hmm.
love, more service, all of these good things, then
Yeah.
it is coming from a place of light. There's no
Yeah.
doubt about it.
That's so true. I love that. And that's really how I had my spiritual experience was I was trying to feel my heart. I wanted to feel what that felt like. And that brought me to a place of opening to God's love and having my spiritual experience. When I start to worry and wonder, and that just closes my hearts to that love so much. But
Mhm.
it just
Yeah,
feels like love. You're
yeah.
right.
That's how I have learned now that that's exactly how what I use as my gauge. And also, one another question I had for you was, I know yours is more of a faith construction story, but when it
Mhm.
comes to religion in general or What are your
Mm.
beliefs and where have you landed now in terms of your view on God and religion?
Oh my gosh, Pooja. I wish I had an answer. So I did spend a lot of time in different religions, but now I do go to church and synagogue still. I am a Sunday school teacher at an Episcopal church.
Yeah.
That's a secret of mine. No one knows that. Hi, I just told you my secret. I've been teaching Sunday school on and off since I was 23 at these really sweet churches, but usually because they ask me to. But no, I go. I feel like God is so big and it's just full of love. It's just love, God's love. I feel it deeply. And really, I just love being with people who care about God. And I really
Mhm.
believe what Jesus said, the greatest, you love your God with all your heart and love your neighbor as yourself. That's the main thing of all of it. So
Mhm.
that's where I fall. I wish I could say I chose one. I just love every I love my friends. I love my family. I love observing Shabbat. I love taking communion. So
Mm.
I just have found this kind of blend. I guess I can't give it up. I know so many people in the spiritual community have moved on from religion, and I think maybe I'm kind of antiquated for not moving on. But I've only been around really nice people there. And I guess I feel more embarrassed that I can't choose one. I want to be just part of one family, but I feel like I'm part of all of the families. Just my background was like that. So,
Yes. And
yeah.
that I think that's actually very beautiful, Rebecca. I think we are
Mm.
supposed to be part of a larger community, no matter what our beliefs are. And if
Oh, that's true.
and if you're
Yeah,
connected to people with love, then religion doesn't matter. Then that's just a vehicle through which you're expressing your love or your purpose or,
that's
you
so
know.
true. And
Hmm.
I've found so many beautiful people everywhere I've gone. I
Hmm.
mean,
And
yeah.
that part of deconstructing for me was hard because the community that I left behind was very loving.
Oh, that's really
And
hard.
yet I had trauma from the religious beliefs itself. So it is a fine line there, but the people always, because that's how we show up in the world, right? That's where we can express our soul and our service is in community. So
That's
I
so true.
totally,
And I
and
guess,
I have a blended family as well with Hinduism and Christianity,
uh,
and there are aspects of Hinduism that I miss and I love, and I try to keep that. So I get it. I get it.
you understand how you feel connected to these different communities that aren't
They're so different from
devoutly
each
believe
other.
different things.
Yes,
Yeah,
I
but is
absolutely.
connected beyond. That's
Yes,
so
and
cool.
that's what I've said. I say that I'm not religious and I don't belong to an institution, but I
Yeah.
definitely have some traditions from both that makes me feel just connected and grounded. I think groundedness in this world is certainly important. And for many
Hmm.
of us, religion is a way of doing that as well.
I
Yeah,
know it can be. I hope that we can find, I don't know. I like being part of the larger human family.
I
And I
do
think if,
too.
I guess there's a way to do it that's more inclusive. I feel like the religion, like the strains of Judaism and Christianity that I've been involved with have been very progressive and it's okay to believe what you believe and everyone's part
Mhm.
of the big family.
Mhm.
But I know it depends on who you talk to. I don't know. But I
Yeah.
do love, I don't know. It's pretty fun.
It
And
is.
there's also like IANs, like other communities where
Yeah.
these are spiritually minded communities that come together. It's a little different, but
Yeah.
it's also important gathering place.
Or sometimes people find their path in a universalist church where
Hmm.
you meet people from all different backgrounds. So
Oh
there's
yeah,
lots of ways to do religion.
that's so true. I
Yeah,
know.
it's not all bad. Do you know, are you familiar with the work? There's a monk, I think he used to be a monk and now he's an author too, Thomas More. And I read his book, it was years ago, and the name of the book is A Religion of One's Own. And he
Hmm.
said that this entire generation that's coming up, they're not going to be happy settling into just one.
Oh, I
They're
like
going to
that.
want to create their own from all the different traditions. And I think that's probably what's happening.
Yeah, maybe
Either,
that's what's happening. I feel
yeah,
so alone in this, but I think there's other people that do this too.
they
And I must
do.
think, I have to think like all those ministers in my mom's side of the family just keep drawing me back into religion because there's like a huge
Yes,
tradition of these really serious
we
religious
definitely
people.
have a legacy here, Rebecca.
Can you
It's
imagine? I didn't
Yeah,
know.
imagine, right? If I have no clue what my ancestors were doing, so sometimes I'm curious. I want to go
I
find
bet
out.
you had some mystics in your family. I think it doesn't just come up. Maybe everyone's going to have these experiences, but I feel like I remember my uncle found my website and he was like, "Oh, I have experiences like that all the time." That was on my mom's side where there's all these
Yes.
ministers.
And
I
I
feel like
think
it runs in the family.
and I think mystical experiences transcend the boundaries of religion anyways.
They do.
Again, I feel like religion is something we need here on this planet,
For
but
sure.
once we transcend that and our bodies are gone, I think then the mystical experiences will take with us, will carry them.
It's really just about the love. That's so true.
Yeah.
But while we're here, it's nice to light a candle and feel connected to something physical or however
However
you
you
have
practice.
you observe. That's
Mhm.
neat. I think it's fun to talk about these because there's so many questions that come up, but in the end, it's really just about that love that you and I both felt and
Mhm.
sharing that, feeling that, and sharing that. So,
And talking about sharing, Rebecca, I love your content.
oh,
I
thanks.
appreciate your faithfulness with which you sit with your meditation, bringing us messages from angels, from Jesus, from just from your heart. And so I really appreciate you. And I just want to just make a little pitch shamelessly because I believe that it can really help a lot of people that are looking for inspiration or hope. Rebecca has just a wonderful Facebook and Instagram page, and she posts her angel messages there pretty frequently because
Thank you,
they'll pop
Pooja.
up for me
Yeah.
pretty frequently. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I highly encourage everyone to go there and just check it out. So I'll have the link for that in the show notes. And I know that you did a reading for me that was such a blessing, Rebecca. Are you still doing that?
Yeah, I call them sacred soul sessions now. Like I received that name in prayer, actually. So basically, I just tune in and work with your team, your angels and guides, God, and lead you through healing messages and coaching as needed. So it's just tailored to you in your session. So yes, I do that sacred soul session. They've been really helpful and supportive, and the goal is to really help everyone have their own path after where they get messages and guides and then they're able to keep it going for themselves after.
And
So
how can we find you for that? It's just should we go through your email? Because I'll just make sure to put everything in the show
yeah.
notes.
Thank you, Pooja. You can look at my website, RebeccaKastle.com, and that's where you can book with me. You can also find links to my Instagram and my YouTube. Once I started deciding to share, I'm just sharing all over the place. And just you can find me anywhere. It's all under my name, Rebecca Kastl.
Oh,
So
well, this has been very delightful, Rebecca. Thank you so much for joining us today.
thank you, Pooja. You're the best. I love you. So fun to talk
Okay.
with you.